And welcome to the No Something Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. And here's your duo of hosts beaming in from the Star Trek Enterprise, RedRomina, and of course from his man cave, which is in an undisclosed location, your dark lord of the interwebs, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the No Something Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Please like, subscribe, review, and do all the things.
Bruh.
Bruh. Doing all the things.
All the things.
Absolutely. We actually need to update some of our audio files.
We absolutely have to. We're on like episode 133, and I think we're only up to audio. Like, what are we up to? Like episode 40 if we're lucky.
Oh, God. I'm afraid to look.
Oh, my God. It's a problem.
It's a problem that can be fixed and will be fixed at some point of our life.
Yeah, Jesus. Will it? Will it, though?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
I'm not optimistic.
Oh, man, we're at 38.
Oh, dear God. See, we're not even up to we're literally like 100 episodes behind.
100
like
episodes.
90, we're 95 episodes behind. That is ridiculous.
Dude. All right. Well,
that's sad.
I'll take a look at it and I'll break it down and I'll see about gradually starting to bring that back.
Yeah. That is sad.
But look at us. We've done 133 episodes.
Yeah. Facts.
Regardless of the world falling apart. And I think that's something worth celebrating.
Yeah, I think we lasted longer than what was that one that Ray William Johnson and Epic Lloyd had? It was like the Kings of something. Remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Forgot about that.
Yeah, it was the Kings of something podcast. It's like, see, you can't even remember it, but it was good. I liked it. They had this kind of like thing going on, and it was like, I liked it. I was enjoying it. I was like, yeah. What was it, like the Kings of Relevancy or something like that, which would be a very ironic name for their podcast of all things. But
it was, let's see, I'll figure that out right now. It was Kings of Influence.
Still, oh my God, that's ironic. I'm not being hating. I'm just saying.
No. Yeah, we're not trying to drag, but also
they were at their peak. They were Kings of Influence in their prime. Like Epic Rap Battles of History was an event to watch all the time. I loved it. And every week. And Ray William Johnson at one point, wasn't he the biggest YouTuber at one point with Equals 3?
That's actually, I think that is accurate.
So they were historically at some point Kings of Influence, but by the time they had the podcast, not so much. And today, not so much. So it's like, it's an ironic epithet for the podcast, all things considered. I think it was a self-aware joke, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And when did that, when was that out?
Pre-pandemic, I think.
Yeah, I guess so. It was, I see like 2019.
Yeah. It was, to be fair, honestly, it was some of the inspiration for NARP, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I mean, it is what it is. It's like everybody starts a podcast, but hardly anybody finishes one.
Well, how many episodes did they get to? Because I think we may have surpassed them on episodes.
That's actually a really great question. Let's find out. Kings of Influence. Such a funny name. Okay. Oh wow, they're not on Spotify. So I guess we have a leg up.
Were Spotify podcasts not a thing in 2019?
Or maybe they remove their episodes. I don't know.
Maybe I check their YouTube. Maybe I can check their YouTube.
I'm gonna look on YouTube because that's this doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like they got to wait, what? Their numbers are a little weird.
The numbers are weird?
Yeah. Or am I not looking at the right one? Maybe I'm not looking at the right one. Let's see. Final episode. It says final episode. The final episode, number 76.
Oh wow! So they didn't even get to 100 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't. Look at us. Look at us go.
Look at us go. Still going strong. Still going strong.
So what is happening in the world of Neuralink?
So for those not familiar, Neuralink is Elon Musk. Well, it's part of a larger company, but one of the key things with this is Elon Musk wants
Brain
to put
control.
a chip in your brain. Wants to put a chip in your brain. But like the purpose of Neuralink, as we've talked about many times on the show, is that there are a lot of people that have a lot of particular challenges, usually due to some loss of one of their senses or one of their limbs. And the thing is, with the right technology and many advanced prosthesis, you could actually control it, with your brain, and you could actually control your prosthesis with your brain, meaning that you can get close to a natural life with a prosthesis if you need a limb replacement. There are experiments going on to try to restore parts of people's senses if they've lost their senses, including hearing or vision and things like that. And it's there's some really good stuff with this. Like, I know it gets into the uncanny valley and people being cyborgs, but it's like there's some really good potential here to make a lot of human lives better. So
What's wrong with being a cyborg?
The question inevitably comes up, but there's also the ability, by the way, that maybe we give people enhanced abilities if they have this chip in their brain. But there's a lot of ethical questions, and the question always comes out with, even if you were to, let's say, for example, get borderline superpowers, would you put a chip in your brain? And that's a really interesting question. Like, Romina, what would it take for you to put a chip in your brain? And then we'll get into the pod people later.
I think it would depend on what kind of features am I getting?
What features would you need to get as an upgraded human? What would we have to give you as an enhanced human for you to say yes to putting a chip in your brain?
Basically, you've seen the movie Limitless?
Yes.
Right. I want that.
Okay, sign me up. If I get to be limitless.
If I get that, then
with no downsides, I gotta trust you, bro. Put the chip in my brain. I gotta trust you, bro.
Cut open my skull.
It's like, let's go. Like, if I get to be limitless, look, if they give me NZT, I'll pop that tomorrow.
Okay, so it wouldn't take much for us because we are enhancing our brain power, right? So that's both.
And we're already smart. And we're already smart.
So that's our base level of, like, that's our in for you and me, right? Yeah. Like if there was a poster that was like enhance your brain power, like you and I would sign up, right?
Give me the drugs, give me the chip, give me I'll take it, whatever. Let's go.
Now, what if it doesn't enhance intelligence or brain capacity?
It's the only thing I need. All I need is enhanced intelligence, or all I really need is enhanced intelligence, or if you're going to anti-age me, it's like enhanced intelligence, anti-aging, immortality, regeneration. If you're not giving me that, I don't care.
Will in the chat says that it's Google Assistant in my brain.
Yeah. If I can't have enhanced cognitive abilities, like prime example, photographic memory, instant recall, yes.
Right. Being able to catalog everything.
If I can catalog everything, organize, and I have photographic memory, microscopic memory, just give it, facts. I'll take that. But if I'm not getting stuff like that, it's like, or if I'm not getting regeneration or something, who cares? Because I'm already smart, and again, I already have all my limbs and whatnot. It's so,
What if you could, by implanting this in your brain, you're able to do other stuff that's like more physical, like
such as,
I guess I would say maybe something in terms of being able to work out for longer, like things like that, where it would affect like muscle regeneration, or maybe something with upside.
I literally don't get enough upside.
Mm-hmm.
Because the only upside
this is a hypothetical situation. I'm just trying to think of like different scenarios, right?
Like, even if you gave me like super strength, super speed, super stamina, I don't get enough utilization out of that compared to just increasing my brain power, because I can't necessarily, for the way I am and for what I do, I can't use that to get rich. And its only benefit is like, at that point, it's like the only benefit is, okay, I'm not in combat situations, so I don't really need that. Yes, it increases my survivability, but money could do that. So just make me smarter and give me the money, and then I just hire soldiers, right? So it's like, the only like, because I guess the only thing I can use it to is to just like to get girls. The only reason I could, like, enhancing my physical abilities at this point does me absolutely, aside from just better health and better fitness, it does nothing for me except, theoretically, I might be able to attract more women. And like, if that was the case, just give me money. Give me money. Money cures so many problems that it's ridiculous. So it's like, because here's the thing, for any problem that I can't solve with like literally superpowers that give me a better self, or any mental health issues, the remainder of my problems that are not mental health issues or functions of my personality interacting with other humans can be solved with money. And all of my problems with other humans can be solved by buying them. Everyone has a price.
Right. And we found out that our price is increased intelligence.
Yes. What, like, Romina, what could you not do with increased intelligence?
Dude, all right. So first of all, I think what would be amazing is, at least what attracted me the most from the Limitless drug, is the aspect of language learning and memory recall. Like that to me is like, okay, if I can just learn information quickly and be able to adapt quicker, that would turn me into a superhuman.
Yes, because if I'm doing that, the thing is, if I'm doing that and I'm on NCT, I'm already just going to be sitting there absorbing information and on a treadmill or a workout routine every day anyway, if I'm already doing that. So I'm literally just going to become the best version of myself. And that's like, at the end of the day, you don't need more than that. It's going to make me so much money that I have, like, I'm going to be interesting by proxy of money. There's a certain level of like 6 figures doesn't make you more interesting. 7 figures does.
Yeah, I guess so.
No, I'm speaking from experience. Like, at 6 figures, what can you do? Because it's less money than people think it is. Because after taxes,
right. Well, the thing is that the thing is that 7 figures give you the liberty to become more interesting.
That's what I mean.
Well, right.
That's what I mean.
So it's like it's not so much the actual dollar amount that's in the bank account, but what you can do with your free time.
Someone who's frugal, making $80,000 a year, has the same travel capability as someone who makes $250,000 a year. And people don't believe that, because it's like, it's just a matter of nicer accommodation. It's just a matter of nicer accommodation. Because you and I priced it, a 10-day trip to like Greece, Italy, Rome, all of those trips for 10 days, flight and hotel, is $3,000. Now, what a lot of people complained to me on Twitter about was, they said, well, good luck getting 10 days off from work. Well, first of all, I was like, well, if the thing is, my answer still works, because if you can't take 10 days off of PTO and blah, 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 then the thing is, the price gets cheaper now, doesn't it? Because you can only take 3. And if you take 3 and you book a PTO and you bookend the 2 days off, you get a week normally, then you get 5. If you could take 5 days PTO, you bookend the 2 days a week that you would normally get on both ends, and you have basically your 10 days. You take 1 non-paid day, and there you go. It's 10 days. You get your full experience, but you could get 5 to 7 days out of this either way. So, like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, and then it becomes cheaper. So there's something at, like, even at $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 a year, even at $30,000 a year, if you're frugal enough, someone can still take one of these trips once a year. And the thing is, if you're somebody who makes $250,000, you probably don't have the time to take this trip more than once or twice a year. So paying more money is just to take a nicer version of the same trip. You see what I'm saying? So you don't get that much more interesting making like 6 figures, even mid to high 6 figures. You don't get that much more interesting than somebody that's making $80,000 a year. You're much more interesting than someone making 50 or 30, but not 80, right? So, but someone making $80,000 a year is not that interesting compared to the average person. So the gap of how interesting you can put yourself in life situations to be at a certain price range. And I'm saying interesting without becoming someone who lives dangerously.
Mm-hmm.
You get what I'm saying? Because, like, yeah, there are interesting people that are much more broke than that. They live dangerous lives to be interesting. They have interesting stories of almost dying. You know, it's
right.
They're more edgy, so to speak. That's why they're interesting, because they're edgy.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have interesting stories about these wonderful experiences they have. They have interesting stories about these traumatic experiences that they've had. So that's the difference between someone who's interesting that doesn't have money, is they talk about their trauma, their pain, and their near-death experiences. And then somebody who's interesting with a lot more money can tell you about the interesting people and places and things and so on and so forth. So there's an access level. Mm-hmm. But the access level for time freedom, someone who makes 7 figures can work less because their desire to make a certain amount of money is not there as much. So it's like, so they can pull back from the time they're putting in, the hours in a week, a day, a month. So that's where 7 figures gives you more time and time freedom, money freedom, and location freedom all at once. When you're making 6 figures, you have time, money, and location freedom, but you don't always have them all at once. Most people do not realize that because they've never been in that position. I didn't understand that when I wasn't in that position. I mean, they kind of even allude to that in the movie Limitless, you know,
right,
with Eddie Mora.
Yeah,
they like his experiences and like what made him interesting to his like girlfriend and everything like that was like there were interesting things about him as a struggling writer that were quirky, so to speak, right? But when he started to get his life together, what was interesting to him were his options and his potential. What was interesting to him was like things he could talk about at a high level with confidence. You know, that's even what worked with his like landlord's girlfriend or something like that.
Right.
It was his ability to be interesting and speak with confidence, but it's because but
it's because he had stuff to back it up.
Exactly. Yeah. It was the instant recall. It was the stuff to back it up. And that's why he could say it with like confidence. But person who has a certain amount of life experience can say and do things with a higher level of confidence. And people don't realize that that's the dynamic that money changes. But most people don't ever experience a certain amount of money, so they wouldn't know that. You know, it's like you have this. If you don't have a transformation, you don't understand. It's like people who have a weight loss transformation can tell you a lot of things that someone who's just always been fit can't, or someone who's never been fit can't. Because like transformation is more useful information than just always have or never had.
Yeah, the extremes are kind of they're special cases. But I think that when you're talking about money, again, I think it's not just the money, but also the time. It's the freedom, which obviously we talk about in our own channels and stuff too, that we've talked about, like having that financial freedom. But I think what's important is that, and this is something that is in a number of books, but I feel like it's not really talked about as much, because people talk about financial freedom and reaching that state of like, hey, we don't have to wake up at 7:00 in the morning, right? And like stuff like that, and go to work. Like we can just live and travel and have our own schedules. But then
but that's
I think
not real.
what we don't discuss is like what to do with your time now that you have this free time.
Well, people also don't understand what that number is because they don't understand what things cost. And the thing is the fantasy of the experiences. Because also what people don't reckon for is how much can you have of this before it gets boring?
Right, exactly. And that's where I was getting to, is that there's a romanticism around it. But I think that having interests is it goes down to your core, and it's not something that like you have to figure out what exactly you want to be doing with your time, because I think a lot of people don't realize days can get really long, and there's like so many hours in a day.
Oh my God.
And when you don't have a lot of things to do, you're just kind of doing nothing, and you're like, well, what am I supposed to do right now?
People, you know how people are like, how is it all these rich people can be on social media or Twitter all day or this or that, or if they're so successful, why are they spending their time making YouTube videos and everything? Because there's not enough things to do in a day. And the thing is, you get that money, there's a certain amount of money you can spend, and then it's not interesting anymore. And the thing is, you don't need to make millions of dollars before spending money is no longer interesting.
And like, you always have to be finding those interesting things to do to fill up your time.
Yeah.
That becomes your job.
Yeah. The only people who only materialistic people, like really materialistic people, or people who want to show off the lifestyle, those are only people. And even spending money is not interesting for them. It's boring for them to buy fancy watches. It's boring for them to buy those handbags. They still do it because at this point it's normal, and in their mind, they don't have as much of a downside, but it's like, but there's, and they, oh, I like it. And it's like, but it's for them, it's like buying a milkshake, right? It's like somebody who's not going to get fat buying a milkshake. That's what it is. Right. But I'm not, as a person who's like not very particularly materialistic, I only like my nerdy things, and I like my cameras, and like I'm not a car guy for whatever reason. My friends growing up were all car guys. In fact, if my friends made the money that I made, like they wouldn't have all these cameras. They would have only the little bit of cameras they need for YouTube, and they wouldn't have all the camera lenses that I have. They would have a supercar. They would have like an $80,000 supercar in the driveway. If I sold all my cameras, except for the main one that I need, and like the 3 lenses I actually use all the time, like I could sell all that, and I could have a supercar sitting in the driveway. I could have a Tesla sitting in the driveway, and like a Tesla Model X, right? But I don't care about cars. I'm not a car guy. You know, they're functional for me. I'm like, I will have something that's nice and good enough. That's why I have a Nissan and I have a RAV4. You know, like I don't. Like I'm not necessarily a car guy. Maybe when I have a midlife crisis in a few years, I'll buy but that's what they would get, you know? Right. Like, but there's like, once you have your needs met and a few nice toys, it's like, it's a chore to think about spending money, even when you don't have to think about spending money, so to speak. Travel's the same thing. You know this, you've traveled the world. I've traveled the country. Like, preparing for a trip's a pain in the ass. It's like, it's a hassle to travel. People don't understand it is a hassle to travel. It is a luxury when you don't do it. It is exciting when you don't do it. When you actually do it, you're frustrated with the 2 days you lose in prep and travel in between the actual experience that you got to have. Like, you're really pissed about those 2 days because you're not getting that time back. And it was all necessary to have the experience of the travel. So the real sacrifice for you isn't money. It's all the time you lose in prep, transit, airport, Ubers. It's like you realize that time that you will never get back matter in getting to the experience is much more valuable to you than the money you spent to have the experience. And most people do not understand, if they currently are trading their time for money out of their life, they do not understand the value of time anymore.
Let me ask you something that's kind of on a different it's a different topic.
Okay.
So in terms of hopping onto VR and going to Meta, right?
Yeah.
How, if you want to join Mark Zuckerberg's little utopia that he's trying to build, you have to buy a headset from Meta, which is Facebook.
Yeah, it's like
and you have to have
right?
You have to have a Facebook account.
Yep.
So for people like me who I do not like the idea of having a Facebook account for that. I mean, the only reason that I have my Facebook account is for my various like business pages.
Sure.
And for like ads, right?
Yep.
So
for personal use, I don't.
Right.
I literally use it for business, and Instagram, I do use personally, but yeah.
So they are kind of forcing to enter into the Facebook ecosystem.
Yes, which is brilliant.
Aside from the brilliancy of it, how would you feel as a consumer? Is this something that you would potentially do? Because I mean, their whole MO is to be like, hey, this is like second life. Like we're supposed to like join and.
To a point, I like the concept of VR, but I'll be real with you. I literally have an Oculus Quest 2, and it's not. I haven't unboxed it. I've had it for months, and I haven't unboxed it. But I want to, and Viper keeps trying to get me into it, and so you know me, I'm gonna cave eventually. But
what's Viper doing with the with VR?
He's doing the whole meta and interacting with people thing. So is my friend Mitch Jackson. They're just my friend Mitch Jackson, literally as a metaverse. My friend Mitch Jackson is all in on metaverse and Web3 and crypto. My friend, honestly, do you know who I find is really super into VR and metaverse and Web3? I found that a lot of people over 50 are really into it.
What do you think what do you think the psychology is behind that?
I think it's because they have lived longer with the idea of fantastical things, and they're a little older than us by 10, 15 years. They're older than us. So the thing is, we got to see all this stuff be built. They got to see all this stuff be built, though, but we were children as a lot of it was being built. They were adults. So they've seen even further the evolution of technology by another decade than us, and been old enough to cognitively understand and appreciate it. So the gap between what their first experiences of technology and ours are so vast that I think that the ones that are tech savvy appreciate it more than we even do. And we appreciate it more than most of our peers. And we certainly appreciate it more than people 10, 20 years than us that are adults, So I think that because you and I are old enough at an age to where we've lived more of our life in a post 9/11 world than a pre 9/11 world.
Right.
And there are people who can drink alcohol today who've only lived in a post 9/11 world. So that blows my mind. So you have to consider the people who are older than us lived in a world where home video game consoles didn't exist. They might have lived in a pre-personal computers world. They may have lived in a pre-Apple, pre-Microsoft world.
Do you think that maybe there's maybe a little bit of mobility comes to play as well? I mean, once you start getting up there,
they can do more. They can do more it's almost like regeneration for them. So I can see that. Yeah. It's now if they take it if it gets to an extreme where it's because this gets into our pod people conversation, would you rather live your life as over 60 in the real world, or would you rather be half your age in the virtual world? Would you rather be 60 in the real world or 30 in a virtual world?
How long am I 30 for?
However long you have left. Would you rather live the remainder 20 or 30 years that you get in the real world from being age 60, and you get to be age 60 to 80 to 90, or would you rather be perpetually 30 for the next 30 years in the virtual world?
See, I don't know I don't know how I feel about that.
Because that's an interesting twist, isn't it?
Because
30 and immortal for 30 years, or 30 more years as a senior citizen?
Yeah, but I'm planning on living over 100.
So think about it, though. But you get to be 100, but in what condition?
I plan on being a cyborg.
Well, there's still some limitations to being a cyborg. Ask Vader how that works out, sitting there with a respirator, sitting there with them robotic limbs chafing you, just the whole time. Just the whole time. Just like,
yeah. I guess, I mean, I feel like there's like some Black Mirror episode about this. I mean, there's like the one,
extending your natural existence in the Vader bodysuit
yeah.
versus.
Well, I mean, there is one that's like there's a couple like the episodes that are like that, but also I guess I don't know. I mean, there's something maybe I don't know, that's a tough one. It's a tough one because I still feel like 30 is still young, like physically, right? So I feel like if maybe you had said like 45.
No, I'm saying you get to be 30 in the virtual world. You're 60 years
Right.
old. They plug you in, and now you're 30.
Right. I know. Okay. Okay. So
You're
I'm
going in the
60 years
pod.
old.
You're going in the pod,
At 60. Okay.
Yeah. You're going in the pod at 60 because you're like, oh wow, I'm like getting old. I'm up there.
I'm going
I
in
can't
the
do
pod at 60, and then the remainder 30, 40 years that I have left, I'm going to
You're living
be
as if you're like
perpetually 30.
30. Yeah.
But physically I'm in a pod.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll
One-way
do
trip.
that. I would do that.
One-way trip.
I might do that.
Okay.
I might do
Now,
that.
you wouldn't necessarily do it when you're younger though, right?
No, I wouldn't. That's why I was hesitating, because I felt like I still feel like even at 45, I'm like, that's still,
yeah,
like, you can still do so much. And there's
but
like even 60-year-olds that are,
yeah, no,
fit and can
you
do
see my
stuff,
mom,
right?
she's in really good, she's well preserved at 60.
Right, exactly. And so I think that like it depends on every
the older
person,
you get
but
though, the more tempting the pod is.
right, exactly. I mean, even now thinking about that hypothetical, it's tempting.
Do you think though, like do you think that today, like young people who are like broke, like young people that are super broke, and like, yes, like I'm not trying to make it political, but I'm just gonna say it. It's like all these kids who like socialism, Marxism, everyone's equal. Like if you just told those kids, okay, look, the world is unfair, it's cold, it's evil, it's cruel, and it's not going to get better. But here's what we can do. You can go into the pod and be a winner. You can go into the pod and you'll never feel like pain, hardship, and everything like that. You go into this pod, you're going into a world where you've written the script, you're going to be a winner. And look, what we'll do, we'll let you do a trial run, 72 hours, and then you come out, you tell us that if you rather be there or you rather be here, you sign some papers, you get your affairs in order, you say your goodbyes, and you go into the pod. And it's a one-way trip, and you're not coming back. What do you think what do you think that young people today who feel like, oh, I'll never be a homeowner, oh, I'll never be out of debt, or blah blah blah, like all these, like, even let's say they're under 30, what percentage of them are going into the pods?
They're gonna be winners.
They get to decide, like, all right, here, fill out these forms, here's what your life in the pod world is going to be. Here's what your experience is. Here's the experiences you said you want to have. We will literally keep keep your body alive and preserved for its full natural like lifespan, maybe longer than slightly natural, because you're going to be getting nutrients and all the things you're not getting here in the real world if you're not getting enough of it and everything like that. You're going to go in there. You're not going to feel physical, but you're going to plug into the Matrix. But it's a version of the Matrix where you've already scripted out the life experiences you want to have, the lifestyle you want to have, the income level you want to have. You have literally written your manifest destiny of all the things you thought you would never have and never achieve. And you're going in the pod. And Timothy, the reason they would cope is because it's a one-way trip. It's a one-way trip. And when you get into the pod, you don't know that you're a pod person. You just think that this is the world, and you're going to have, and that it's always been your life, and you're just going to live this wonderful life, and you're going to live it through to the end, and you're going to have all these wonderful life experiences. And again, in this thing, like they'll like naturally like age, but at a decelerated rate. So even like when they've reached a certain point in their lifespan in the pod, like they'll like age at like 3 times less the rate so that they always feel vibrant. And the thing is, they might slightly age so they feel like they're naturally progressing, and their brain doesn't say, hey, what's going on here? They'll just feel like, oh yeah, I'm just super well, I'm taking care of myself. That's why I'm so young and youthful. And then they just maintain their stats, so to speak. You know, they don't have any downsides for aging in this virtual world their brain's plugged in. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that's the deal, Romina, if the deal is you're going to live a natural lifespan, you're going to be in the pod, you're going to be the best version of yourself. You know, if you're fat, you're going to be like thin and gorgeous. If you're short, you're going to be tall. You're going to be whoever you ever wanted to be, and you get to script out all these wonderful milestones and experiences you get to have. You have no previous recollection of your former life that you don't want. This will be the world you've always lived in, and you'll never know that there was enough. Start. Yeah, it's fresh start, second life, literally second life. Who do you think? What percentage of people, and through what age groups, and what income? Like, you know, who do you think are going into these pods? And like, don't you think there would be a lot of volunteers?
I think there would be a lot of volunteers.
So who's going into the pods?
Volunteers. I think the people who feel the most vulnerable, the people who feel like victims, because I think that there is truth in having that kind of victim mentality and feeling like, well, the only resort that I have is to start over.
So it's basically reincarnation for them.
Right.
Maybe that's how it's marketed.
Reincarnation.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like
project. The Second Chance Project, reincarnation for people who could a second chance to be a winner. It's like, you know what? You got a bad hand in life. You were dealt a bad hand in life. This is your second chance.
I don't want to enable them.
Don't you want to be a winner?
I don't want to enable them.
Don't you want to be a winner? Go into the pod.
I ain't about to tell them that they were dealt a bad hand. Sounds like enabling. Right? And then also we're creating a generation of people who know that that's an option. So won't it make them susceptible to become that vulnerable?
No one can consent to going into the pod until they're over 18. No one can go into the pod until they're over 18.
Well, there goes half the demographic.
Oh, it's like there's so many things you can't. Actually, no, I take it back. You can't go into the pod until you're over 25. You have to have a fully developed prefrontal cortex. You can't go into the pod until you're over 25.
Well, Will, this actually sounds kind of like Vanilla Sky, with the difference that Vanilla Sky is not a reincarnation but an afterlife.
Yeah. But yeah, this is yeah, and you get to be a winner. You get to be a winner finally.
I don't like that, and I don't agree with that.
Well, you're not going in the pod.
No, I'm not going in the pod. Yeah, right. That's a great question, Timothy. How much are you charging? Also, who's paying for this? Because if they...
Nothing, because we save so much money.
Okay, I see where you're going.
Nothing.
I see where you're going. That is an evil plan.
It costs nothing. Subsidized by your tax dollars because it costs nothing.
All it is a bunch of computers.
It costs nothing. I mean, but the American taxpayers happily pay for it, but it costs.
Right, because physically we don't have to deal with those people. IRL.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It pays for itself. Guaranteed. It pays for itself.
It is like survival of the fittest.
I mean, it's essentially the Matrix. It's essentially the Matrix. It pays for itself. It pays for itself.
Right.
No, we're not going to monetize it with showing people's fantasy lives being played out. We're not going to monetize it. It's just like, it's personal, it's private, it's locked down, NDA, blah, blah, blah. That pays for itself.
But what if they consent to that?
No, because the thing is, less people will do it if we... why are you profiting off of my blah, 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 blah? Less people will do it. Yeah, the physical bodies are kept alive. That's how we're getting them to consent to it, because their physical bodies are being kept alive. They're on life support. They're just like they're in there, just like the Matrix. It's the Matrix,
right?
It's a volunteer instead of the AI conquering us and engineering us and growing us and putting us in the thing. It's people willingly saying, I'm volunteering. I'm going into the Matrix. I'm going into the pod. I'm going to be a pod person. I'm going to be a winner. I don't like it here. I'm in pain.
Yeah, I mean, they're not. No, we're not destroying the bodies. Like in this hypothetical situation,
no, in this hypothetical situation,
they are preserved. The physical bodies are preserved, and it is your mental state that is transported into this virtual environment.
Yes, exactly so. Now the messed up thing would be tricking people and getting rid of like that's the messed up version, but we'd be preserving the bodies, like, because again we'd go like the Matrix.
Right.
You go to the Matrix, and the reason it makes sense to go the Matrix route is because if nothing else, the bioelectricity to preserve offset the energy cost for the entire system. And that would also convince people that we're not going to liquidate them the minute that they get off the 3-day trial, that we're not going to liquidate them. It would make sense if they realize that, oh, my bioelectricity is being harvested to help preserve the whole system and offset the cost. So it makes sense. So, it's cost effective. So they have a cost incentive. We have to prove that there's not a profit motive, but there's a cost incentive or a cost reduction incentive to preserving people. Otherwise, they would believe that we would kill them.
Right, because who's to say that we wouldn't just unplug everybody?
Right. To get around that, you have to make sure people believe that there is a monetary reason for doing this that's part of the contract, and that you still benefit from their existence, but only just enough not for them to feel exploited. Otherwise, they don't volunteer, because then it becomes a rebellion thing. And they'd want to destroy the system. They wouldn't want other people to have the option if they feel like it's immoral.
Well, don't you feel like we'll have those people anyway?
The thing is, the people who want to grow, the people who are not quite age level to have the option, and the people who want the option would outnumber them so severely that they would shut those people down. And how dare you deny me the right to live a pain-free existence? I want the option. I don't want to compete here. I want to go there.
Right.
They'd be so numerous, and their voices would be so much larger, and they would fight literally to the death to keep this option. Because for them, it's like fighting to get into heaven. Like, you realize that people would literally.
All right. So James Daly in the chat says, just joined, so might have missed, but aren't we more than a brain? Don't we need natural environment interaction for happiness, psychological health, etc.?
You wouldn't know the difference. Bioelectricity, like signals being sent through your synapses and nervous system, you would not know the difference.
Yeah, if we're talking about, I mean, this is obviously a hypothetical situation, but we're talking about plugging into a
Matrix, essentially,
system, right? Like the Matrix, in which you can reincarnate while still being alive. So essentially, your body will stay alive, and you're able to have a fresh start in life. So if you feel like your life isn't fair, or you're not doing so good IRL, you can hop into this virtual world and be a winner. Essentially, you can write your own story,
your own story, your own life, every milestone you want to have, every major experience. There's obviously random things in between, but you'll never truly experience hardship if you don't want to.
So I think in this hypothetical situation,
most people we know that most people, anyone with like a physical or very life impairing quality of life like situation physically, it's probably like more than half of them go in.
Right. So to answer James's question is, I think that in this hypothetical situation, the natural environment would be created by the virtual environment. So the interactions that you need for mental health would be created virtually.
And again, you wouldn't have a memory of a different existence, so
right.
You wouldn't know anything else.
Yeah, so you wouldn't be nostalgic for your IRL.
No, as far as you know, you'd be in the real world. As far as you know, this is what you've experienced your whole life. This is so because the thing is, you're writing your future, but you also get to write your identity and your memories. So you get to live as whoever you've ever wanted to be, whatever you think your true self is, whatever your identity is. You get to literally go into a world where you've always been your best self.
Right.
And always will be. And always will be.
Oh my God. This sounds like a movie. This is a movie I would watch. And probably enjoy.
Want to co-write it? Like,
I mean, it really is like something that is not too far from,
because the twist
reality.
is that like the governments and corporations come together and make this available and say, look, we're going to give this to everybody. This is the solution that we've come up with to deal with population, to deal with dissent, to deal with dissatisfaction, to deal with inequality. Like, this is the answer to inequality. This is the answer to inequality. This is the real answer to inequality. The real answer to inequality is go into the pod. Because the people who don't want to go into the pod are saying that they accept reality as it is, and they will take and get the most that they can out of life by their own hand without any assistance, any handouts, any welfare. This is the answer to all of that, is because the people who want to be in the real world accept reality for as harsh as it is. And if they want to opt out, they can. And they know that option's there. They know the pod is always welcoming.
So we have some people in the chat who are mentioning movies and the twists, but the reason those are movies is because they are presenting those
twists to make it interesting. Because again, my version of this is not that interesting.
Right. Which is the majority of life.
Yeah.
It's really quite boring.
Yeah, the majority of life is quite.
Life is what you make it.
Like,
unless you don't, and then you join the pod.
Corporations are not these evil, shady, dark cabals. Corporations are boring.
Right. And there definitely is corruption in a lot of areas of life.
But it's not Monty Burns cackling.
We're not looking at Dr. Evil here with a sphinx in his lap. Like, that's not.
It's not Monty Burns with like a literal button where he has his army of lawyers just sitting there, and another button for the hounds and another button for the trap door. I wish. It's like, it's just, just no, Will Barry, there's no safe word. It is literally a one-way trip. You go into the pod, it's one way.
Oh man, I love that. A safe word.
No safe word. It's like you go in the pod and that's it. You want to be in the real world.
No red pill.
There's no red pill. It's like the red pill is staying in the real world to begin with. The red pill is staying in the real, like, it's like, like you could literally call this Project Blue Pill, and it's
so this is permanent.
Oh,
there's
one way. One way. All you get, if I'm being generous, there's like a 72-hour trial run to say, hey, are you sure? And then do you want to go back or you want to stay out? Like, you get a 72-hour trial run.
And during the 72-hour trial run, I would say that their memory is not wiped out.
Their memory is not wiped out.
Because that's irreversible. So I think it would be to be able to compare.
Yeah, it's just to say, it's like, okay, you've had your 72 hours in. We're going to give you a week. And I think it should be mandatory that you take a week of going back in the real world.
Self-reflection.
Because once you consent and you say, yes, I want to go back in.
It's permanent.
It's permanent. You say, okay, you're going back in. Great. We give you X amount of time, settle all your affairs. We have some default documents you can sign that settle your affairs in a default way, and stuff like that. And, as like, I think that the way you have to really figure stuff out is, well, what about your assets, or do they contribute to the fund of your thing? And like, then that's that. Then it's like, and now you're in the care of the state, you're truly in the care of the state, and it's like, okay, we're preserving your body. Your survival is assured. Your body, as long as this facility remains safe. Here are all the military and things we did and security we did to keep you safe. Here's all the redundancies and everything like that. You're going to be...
all of your needs are met. You got shelter, you got food, you're
going to be taken care of. You're going to be taken care of. You literally, we're going to maintain your body's homeostasis. Your survival is assured as much as it can be. And in the meantime, you'll experience no harm, no pain, and you will be living your best life.
It kind of low-key upsets me a little bit that I know there's a lot of people who will not even blink and accept that. And they were just
surrender,
volunteer to that right away. Because they don't have any hope or any aspirations that their IRL life will change.
Hey, there's some people who will say, as nice as that was, you know what? I saw how good life can be, but you know what? I'm not gonna. Some people will literally say, like, look, 72 hours would not. I don't think 72 hours in a virtual perfect-ish world, even the perfect world of our imagination, I don't think 72 hours seduces me or Romina. Like, that's not. I don't think that works for us. I don't think that works on us. Granted, we're also older than 25, so I think that now. I think that if we were like 65, we're like, you know what, do we really want to be in our old bodies when we can be young again? It's like, so for us, it becomes fountain of youth. That's different. So like at 65, I'm like, oh, fountain of youth time, you know, 70, or you get a debilitating illness. You get a, what they call it, a terminal illness, then of course you're going to want to go into the
So Will brings up a good point, but I don't think it's a problem. I think it's a non-issue, really. Will's question is, wouldn't that be preventing a lot of people from having offsprings in the real world and dropping the population? So here's the thing.
Modern culture's already doing that.
Right. Well, also, it is possible to create children in a test tube. Like, we don't need two people to actually.
If the only goal here was to harvest electricity from humans, that we'd just grow them in here like the Matrix, and that we'd be doing the Matrix ourselves. If the only goal was humans exist and we need electricity, we go full on Matrix, right? But here's the thing. Here's the thing about this is, I don't think it becomes a population problem, because this is the solution to all the people who complain about everything always, because, oh, we have so many problems because of population. It's actually not because of population. It's because of consumption.
Right.
So the problems that the people who think we're too populated when we're really not too populated, the problems they have with consumption, climate, all of that, it's resolved when literally tens of millions of people go into the pods and they're no longer consuming resources and no longer have a carbon footprint that exceeds a certain amount. And it's a measurable, predictable thing. So like once 60, 80 million, 100 million people go into the pods, like, oh, their carbon footprint is all but gone now, because the maintenance of the pods is much lesser than all of the random chaotic decisions that they do. So there becomes that. It also reduces the demand for certain things so little that now prices come down dramatically because there's less consumption, less demand on a lot of these things and everything like that. So now they're not as scarce, and anything that's not scarce becomes less valuable inherently. So now, okay, you have that in terms of, oh, people can't get good jobs, this or that. Well, now there's less competition for those things. And now there's all these jobs maintaining all these plants too. So in terms of like labor, workers, skilled people, blah, 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 you have all this things that are made, medical profession, blah, blah, blah. It's like, maybe you do have free schooling at that point because it becomes practical and viable, or even necessary, just to be able to have people who can go to school for free to learn to do the task that can maintain the pod population that of humans we have to preserve in stasis. So there's, there's a lot of the main downsides just come down to some level of morality and some level of like ethical considerations in terms of whether you think it's an easy out or not, Who's gonna want to farm food for
from pod people who aren't contributing to the real world?
No, so here's
the robots.
Here's the thing, knowing that there's nobody on welfare anymore, people are happy to, and knowing all the other reduced cost and expenditures by knowing there's a population of tens of millions of pod people will contribute. And the thing is, people are farming for the people who still live in the real world to eat. They're
right. I mean, also we have robots, but I think,
yeah,
we'll just have robot farms, but we have robot farms. But also, I mean, there's like what you were talking about, like there's always going to be people who want to support, and there's always going to be people who want to help. Like people are actually a lot more charitable than they're given credit for.
Absolutely.
Like people constantly volunteer for stuff when they really don't need to. And I think that part of the reason that more people don't volunteer.
It's easier for me to throw away all the things I like that I don't want. It's easier to throw it away than it is for me to take the time out of my day and the money out of my pocket that it takes from not using my time on my business to sort out all the clothes that I'm donating, that I'm washing and donating. I'm not just donating dirty clothes. I'm washing and donating the things out of my basement that are still usable things, that are tech that I'm donating. Like it costs me more energy, time, money, and everything to do that than just literally throw it in the damn garbage. People are infinitely more charitable than they're given credit for.
And the reason that more people are not, that there aren't more people volunteering and doing charity work is because we have built a society and a community that believes that the government and other people are going to take care of things for us. In a world where we don't immediately leave everything up to the man in the big house. We have to find a way to help each other out and be a village, and that's where that community and that volunteer effort comes in. And honestly, the reason that we don't have more of it is because of that, is because of the fact that we leave it up to the big man.
And people, I think, will be the people in the real world, knowing that everyone that's in the real world chooses to be here, chooses to fight the good fight, chooses to embrace their own struggles, and is not going into an idyllic world where they don't suffer and don't struggle and don't have to overcome anything. Knowing that everyone you see, knowing that every other human you see, at least in America, is like, hey, this is an American that decided to stay here and be part of the real world. You know, this is an American that decided not to take the exit out, you know, not to skip ahead of the line to heaven, not to take the blue pill. When you know that everybody in your society has volunteered to be part of society because they could opt out, when everybody has decided to endure the life that they have,
you know they want to be there.
You know they want to be there, and you respect that more. If I knew that every human being that I saw that's over 25 said, I'm not going in the pod, I respect every one of them more, and I probably treat them differently, knowing that you're somebody that is not asking for handouts, is not asking for anything that you didn't work for. It's like, I probably feel a lot better about that person. And the thing is, I'm infinitely more gracious to everybody around me if I know that they're here because they want to be, and that they've accepted their struggles and they've accepted who they are. Just knowing that by proxy, when I see you just existing, I know a choice that you've made is to take life head on, says more about your character the minute that happens. And so I think the remaining humans who decide to be in the real world have a closer community and a closer bond than anybody else. Because I think there's just going to be a different psychology. Because, by the way, it means that everybody who doesn't think of themselves in a victimized way are the people walking around. And so removing an element of society, I'm not saying, oh, we force these people into pods, knowing that people, when people know that they can't cope with the world, that they go into the pods, it means that the baseline mental health of the remaining population is intrinsically higher. So again, the people in the pods, they have utopia, quite literally. They signed up for you. Maybe it's the Utopia Project. They signed up for utopia. The remainder of us, we don't have utopia, but we understand that we live in the world that we all agreed to at that point.
Right, exactly. It's consensual.
It's the ultimate consent, because we finally gave people a way to opt out that isn't dying. And to where, from their perspective, they have a better option.
Right.
We literally are giving people a better option. You don't like it here. There is a solution for you. You can live in the world of your choosing. You can live in your idyllic world. You can live in a world that treats you the way you want to be treated anytime you want. As long as you're over 25, you can go ahead and you can do that. And you have a choice. And the thing is, we're not saying your life isn't valuable. To the contrary, we're doing everything we can to preserve and protect your life. If you go into the pod, your life is more preserved and more protected and more safe than everybody who's not in the pod. Everyone who's not in the pod is taking their chances every day.
Right. I feel like, I mean, I think that I would opt to go into the pod after I've lived a very long and cool life. And then I'm just like, well, I've done everything I want to do. So now I want to live out the rest of my days as a giraffe.
You know what? I don't know, even in like old age, I don't know that I go into the pods at that point.
I don't know. That's it.
I'm not 100%
It's a
sure.
maybe. It's a maybe.
It's a maybe.
Yeah.
And also, depending on how good our cybernetic enhancements are at that point, it's like maybe I do go the Vader route. Maybe I'm like,
right. And that's what I'm saying. I'm just like, yeah, why not just like replace everything that's fallen apart?
Like Vader, just Louise.
That's what we're all gonna sound like.
Like Grievous, like Grievous. Yeah, you know, like Kenobi. You know,
I'm down for that.
General Grievous.
Yeah, Grievous is my favorite. So I feel like if I could get to that point in my life where I can be General Grievous, especially because I'm so short. So I think
be
that
10 foot tall.
Be 10 foot tall. Have a bunch of arms. Dude, that's honestly, that's it, man.
Dream
if
come true.
If that was my dream, if that was my life in the pod, sign me up.
That Grievous life though, that General Grievous life though. Okay. Wait. I go into the pod, or I come out as Grievous, or I come out as Grievous. Grievous though.
Hashtag goals, actually.
That General Grievous healthcare plan.
Grievous health.
Oh no, that doesn't sound appealing at all.
I don't know, man.
Grievous Healthcare. Grievous Healthcare Incorporated.
I either sign up or I create it.
Yeah, well, you could go into the pod and be a superhero, supervillain if you want.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying, like, what if I just go in there and I'm just like, yeah, I want to be a whale for the rest of my days. Like, I'm just gonna go in there and just be. I'm just gonna be a humpback. That's it. Yeah. Right.
You know, be a humpback whale. Have your humpback whale kids.
And here's the thing: I feel like because Timothy mentioned earlier using it as a form of therapy, where you can just like go in and kind of see what the worlds that you want to live in, and then try to make it happen. Like take actionable steps IRL to make it happen IRL. And I think that here's
I don't think so.
Wait, hold on. Wait a second. Roberto, hold on. Wait a second.
Okay.
I feel like we have the utopia in which the people will sign up and do the permanent treatment. And they just go in there, wipe their memory, and they're like, I'm out of here. Life. Bye. Right? But I feel like it doesn't have to be absolute in terms of like the technology is there. So we can use the system for other stuff without wiping people's memories. Or we can use it for some form of therapy where...
half measures.
All right. Well, in my world, right. Timothy, if you want to come to my world,
here's the thing. I agree with maybe letting some people theoretically, because the thing is,
these aren't the people who are going to sign up permanently. Like this is something like for me, right? Like I would do it. I would go in there and be like, yo, I want to be a whale for like an hour today.
So I might suggest making a life imprisonment the hellscape environment, but there's no upside for humanity of putting someone in a hellscape imprisonment. Because the thing is, even if you wanted to use it for prisoners, you'd use it for therapy and you use it for reform. And the thing is, that's also what would lower our prison cost. Because the thing is, housing and the sustaining of people, it's not free, but we can offset the cost with the reduction of the consumption and the other things and ending the welfare state. But it doesn't make sense for a prison population. The best thing is if people commit crimes, you send them in, they do the cognitive therapy, and they come out and they're reformed and can be productive members of society. Because the thing is, if they want to be, or they can go into a pod,
they can go into utopia,
or they can go off to utopia. Because here's the thing. Putting people in pods doesn't create more value than somebody being in the real world and toiling.
Yeah.
That someone being in the real world and being productive is worth more. It's worth more money to keep you in the real world. You are more valuable in the real world than in a pod. The difference is of putting you in a pod is if you're not being productive, if you're not living your best life, and if you're struggling and you just can't even barely function in society, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're probably going to be more of a strain on society and burden on society than if you go into the pod, because again, now you're at the lowest cost, but you're at the lowest level of productivity too. So it's just a matter of mitigating losses at this point. It's just a matter of mitigating losses because there's just less total damage someone can do in the pod, but at the same time, they create the least value they could.
Oh, look at that. I win.
Oh, they want Romina, because you're more benevolent than me. Because you're more but that's because you take half measures. Like you're willing to take some half measures. Me, I'm
just providing people with options.
I don't mind there maybe being a therapy option, but not
That's what I said.
But hang on. But it won't be free. You have to pay money for it, and it won't be cheap.
Yeah, well, I didn't even get to talk about the logistics of it.
Because the pod, it's free. You pay nothing. You're awarded the state. It's subsidized. You're awarded the state. You're under the protection and care of the state. That's our welfare. Our welfare is you go into the pod. But if someone who can afford it can use therapy, but it's the most expensive therapy we have.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. I'm not saying that that we'll subsidize.
Yeah, I know that. I just think that.
I think that having the option is cool, but also is a recreational thing too. Like I said, I just want to go in and be a whale for a couple hours.
Okay, so if people can pay for it retro. Okay,
I mean, the technology is there.
That would definitely be a rich people thing, though, for sure.
Well, yeah. I mean,
poor rich people get it for an hour at a time. Poor people get it forever.
Okay, what? Say that again.
Rich people get it for an hour. Poor people get it forever. Rich people get it an hour at a time. Poor people get it forever. Because let's be real, people who are crushing it in life, they're not going into the pod. They're only going in for an hour.
Yeah, for the most part. I think it'll be a very small percentage.
Yeah, it's elitist. Of course it is. I'm not egalitarian at all because I don't believe I'm not egalitarian at all.
Yeah, vacationing in the pod. I mean, I would do that. I feel like that would be fun.
I'm absolutely elitist. Yeah, I'm absolutely elitist because I'm absolutely elitist because it's meritocracy and I believe in meritocracy and I believe it's perfectly fair. I don't believe in egalitarianism and I don't believe in equality because no one's the same. Everyone's not the same, so people can't be equal. People want that equality in utopia. They can go into the pod because it's fake. I'm serious. I'm dead ass.
Right, yeah. I mean, it's another
I'm being
form
funny,
of,
but I'm dead ass.
No, it's another form of escapism.
It is. All it is
it's a permanent form of escapism.
It's a permanent form of escapism. It's like, look, I went through trauma.
And to each their own. If that's the life that they decide to choose, then it's great that we're able to provide them that option.
Everything in life is elitist. Do you realize how much better my life would be? Romina, do you realize how much better my life would be if I was 6 feet tall?
How tall are you now?
5'8". And 4 inches matter. 4 inches matters. Do you realize that my quality of life is dramatically reduced by just 4 inches of biology?
You need to have the Gattaca procedure.
Right?
You need to break your legs and Grow those bones.
Right, exactly. It's like, see, but literally, it is literally.
Which, by the way, that is a procedure.
I know
that is done.
Like, I'm not willing to do. I'm also too old. I'm also too old to.
No, I'm not suggesting it in any capacity. I think it's ridiculous, but
yeah,
but yes, I understand what you're saying.
Any man under 6 feet tall knows exactly the percentage to which his life improves by being 6 feet tall. Every dudes in the chat, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Tell me that if you go back in time right now and could be born knowing that you will grow up and you will be 6 feet tall, that you aren't happier.
I mean, that goes for me as well. Not 6 feet tall, but
yeah,
a couple inches taller. People look at you different.
There's just some things that instantaneously we all know. The thing is, the reason I accept elitism is because I accept it at every level, because I know that there's a quality of life that if for all other things, I know that, all right, I'm taller, my life gets incrementally better. I know, oh, you know what? If I'm not taller, if I become like as light skinned as my sister, instantaneously I get a different life experience that in many ways is instantly better. Like I had a best friend, Ackers, he was like taller than me and light skinned. Boy, was it a much better life. Like we literally grew up like down the road from each other, very similar life experiences and trajectories. And I'm telling you straight up, that's like, oh man, you know what? If I literally just take on your physical features and change nothing else about my personality, my life is instantly better. Like, that's all there is to it. It's like,
well, your life is also shorter the taller you are, but is it?
But it's better quality.
What is better? Is quality better?
And then the thing is, how much shorter with current medical technology? How shorter is it? So I know plenty of tall people live to be 90.
There's lots of old. There's
old tall people all over. Like, so again, and we're not talking being a gargantuan. We're just talking about being 5'11" or 6 feet. Like, it's just boom. Like,
right. I mean, it's. But again, what is more important, the quality or the quantity?
You have to decide. It's for each their own. It's to each their own. So for okay, everyone knows that's like, oh man, if I could snap my fingers and be whatever is considered for your region or location more attractive or prettier, boom, everyone knows that. So like, elitism exists across a spectrum of life experiences. And the thing is, because I live in the real world, I accept it. So I accept elitism as reality. So I don't have some like inherent grudge. Oh, it's elitist and everything. I'm like, yeah, everything is. So what? It's like, it's like, it's one of those things where if I want to be mad at it, my only answer is to take it up with God. Because nature is inherently elitist.
Yeah.
Nature is inherently elitist. It's inherently brutal. It's inherently unfair. So for all problems with this product, see the manufacturer. So what am I going to do? Shake my hand at the sky and scream at God? It's like, that's all you got. Like,
see the manufacturer.
Yeah. For all problems with this product,
talk to the manager.
Yeah. For all complaints about this product, see the manufacturer. Like, it's like, hello, God, I'd like to make a complaint. Like, life is unfair. Fix it.
Put it in the complaint box.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, see how that goes. So like, it's like now serving customer 6,400,865,032.
Ain't that the truth?
Right? So it's like, oh, we're sorry. You have to take that up with another department and form the back of the line. See, that's hell. That's what hell is.
That's facts, man.
Like, so, I just accept it. I just accept that it's like, yeah, there's no, like, the answer that I've come up with for anyone who's like feels some kind of way about it is like, great, go into the pod. Yes, life is unfair. Here's a better one. We've made it just for you.
Based on your specifications,
made to order to your customer specialist. Like, you know what? Congratulations, you ushered in the utopia.
You know what? It's called Utopia, but it's spelled Y-O-U.
Oh, okay, yeah, Utopia. I like, so yeah, the Utopia Project. It's like, yeah, so like, it's like, here you go. It's like, here's this, wonderful pod, and you're gonna live your best life, and we wish you well. It's, yeah. And I again, this is the most humane solution there is for like anyone who just like cannot get past like, you know, being dissatisfied in life and working for whatever you can get and being content with whatever you're able to get out of it. I mean, literally, this is the answer. The answer is we go into the pod. If I didn't believe, like, if I got to a point where I was completely hopeless, I'd go into the pod. If I got to a point, I don't think my mentality, it's like, and here's the thing, the pod is the answer to, instead of like literally deleting yourself, you just go into the pod. You don't have to do that. You know, you can still live a fulfilling life. You don't have to end your life. You start over. Think about it. It's the most humane thing we could ever do. It's the most humane thing we could ever do for anybody. Think about it.
You know what's the most humane thing
Life gets too hard, you go into the pod.
Is also, oh gosh, I think. Well, I was just gonna start wrapping up.
You have simply, you have to rewatch it from the beginning.
NJ, you gotta go back.
You gotta go back
because we're gonna start. Essentially, the pod is just like the Matrix. It's just
the Matrix.
It's a place where you can live out your life virtually.
And you volunteer. And the thing is, yeah, we created, like, we imagined a world where, like, okay, all right, we've come up with a solution. You can voluntarily go into a pod and be plugged into the Matrix. But the twist is, it's your own version of the Matrix, made to order. You can live your best life. You script out the life experiences you want. You will live out your natural lifespan, and you will be in the virtual Matrix, and your body will be protected and put into a pod. And that'll be that for until you expire, and we'll keep you alive as long as your physical body allows for. Gets you your full 80-year lifespan, 90-year lifespan, whatever it is. Plug you into your own Matrix, and you live out your life. And it's a one-way trip, though. The thing is, it's a one-way trip. And we were saying, well, what percentage of the population, at least in America, like, and who? And Romina, like, to your point, it's like, so I know you called out, like, all right, here's the specific circumstances of people who would go in, but out of the entire United States population of people over 25 years old, because that's the age for consent for this, how many of those people, what percentage of grown adults over 25 go into the pods?
Over 25?
Yeah, over 25 years old. What percentage of the population over 25 goes into the pods?
I don't think, I think it'll be low. I don't think that'll be very high.
You really?
Yeah. Over 25?
Over 25 years old.
I mean, you've already made it over your quarter life crisis.
How many people do you think over 25 are crushing it in life and really feel like life is like worth living for? Like, you've met a lot of the people that are in their 20s or in their early 30s. Like, you've met a lot of, like,
I don't know. I feel like once you hit a certain age, if you haven't if you're not crushing it already, then you probably won't be.
But that's what I'm getting at. That's why you have to reach age 25. Like,
yeah.
And then the thing is, that's the age at which you can consent to this. That doesn't mean you're now being presented with, oh, you come in or not. It's like this.
Wait,
the age
I thought
where
I thought the age was 18.
No, we're gonna make it because we want to fully develop. To put your brain in there, I think we have to have a fully developed brain. Okay. You know what I'm saying, or as close to as possible. Yeah. No, I haven't seen the anime film Belle.
Yeah, I saw Belle. I actually have a poster right here next to me.
Yeah, I haven't seen it at all. So I have no inspiration from that. I just use the Matrix.
No.
There's no incentive. There's no incentive to tamper with it.
Yeah, we covered incentives because we talked about the fact that people might be hesitant to sign up with us because they'll think that we'll just unplug them once they go under. But there's
no reason to mess with people who are opting out of the real world because they present no threat to you. They've done nothing to you. There's no reason to tamper with their virtual reality life. There's no incentive. There's nothing you get out. There's nothing you get out of it. There's nothing and again, there's not even an upside really to even just liquidating them and like pulling the there's not really an upside to that either because you've already removed them from play. And now you're not even benefiting from the bioelectricity their body provides. There's not an upside.
There's not an upside. Here's the upside of also just letting them live out their lives. They're just living out their lives. Their brain activity is still stimulating and doing stuff and everything like that. And while we're not going to put it on a screen and monetize it, we could still probably harvest a lot of human behavioral data from everyone who's plugged in. So now we get to train artificial intelligence and we can monetize that. So now anyone messing with the Utopia projects is now messing with profitability from us doing scaled AI research as well. So now there's a corporate incentive to make sure no sinister jackass decides to have fun with this, like, because now they're messing with profitability. See, I don't ever worry about people's better angels. I stopped worrying about appealing to people's better angels or morality a long time ago. That's why my plans scale and have less flaws and less problems and need less fail safes, because I'm already accepting that what motivates human beings. I know human beings are driven by greed, self-interest, and envy and self-preservation, much, much more. And those things largely overrule. There's a small fraction of people who are ever motivated purely led by spite, but almost never so much that they will screw themselves over past a certain point. That's why the law works so well, because it does, by the way. It works like for like 98% of the population, which is a bloody miracle. Like, it's because people will not screw themselves over. Their sense of self-preservation outweighs their greed, their avarice, their spite, their envy, their lust, their wrath, even to a large extent their slothfulness, all of it, because it's intrinsically bad for their own self-preservation instincts. And so that's base wiring in them as a human being. The only people to which that proves to be an exception are outliers that technically are very much deranged and like psychotic, sociopathic, mentally ill, but they're such a small subset of the population. And even they have self-preservation instinct majority of the time. So the odds of getting to a position to where you're involved in this project to such a degree that you have the ability to tamper with anything, like to get through the ability to have the skill set required and then also still have not God and passed all the psyche vows to be involved in all these things, highly unlikely. And there's enough motivated people that want the upsides to stop you. So like the greediest people will actually be the protection against the most sociopathic or psychotic people, because their greed will be more intrinsic. Greed will be more intrinsically present than spite, malice, or evil. No, there's not enough people like that, and they won't get past to be like, because they wouldn't be there wouldn't be that many pod moderators. Most of this would be AI driven. You don't need that many humans in charge of any of this. You don't need that many humans in charge. And then the thing is, you won't get by. And then with all the monitoring, all the filters, all these things, it's not going to be somebody, the amount of intelligence someone would have to be in this position. They can't have this level of intelligence and be like the kind of person you're suggesting. It's not statistically probable that would happen. And in the rare event that it did, they wouldn't get through and they wouldn't bother to implement their plan, because there's so much downside for them and so many people who benefit from the upsides that they would root out this spiteful, petty, evil-ass person you're imagining. This evil-ass person you're imagining will not survive the greedy people. People who are just purely evil only survive largely for long period of time playing at the bottom rungs of society and the middle rungs of society. Because the people around them at the top levels of society are not evil. They're just more ruthless. They're not petty and malicious and malignant, but they are ruthless over what they covet, which is usually money and pride and vanity, So the evil, petty, very wrathful people get filtered out they wouldn't. Yeah, you're trying to make the movie interesting with it, with some villain. I think the real interesting
He's adding the twist.
No, the real twist is RedRomina said is well, what about people who might want to protest this as unethical? like, so your thing is some like protester, activist, terrorist type thing that thinks they're doing the right thing. The twist is that, and the twist is that they don't get to do it because of the people who want this option to exist and would feel like it's assault on the only thing that gives them any hope.
Mm-hmm.
And also the people whose loved ones have gone on into the pods, they'd be like, oh, hell no. Like, you know, you're not attacking our love. Like, those people can't defend themselves. We are going to, you know, like, no.
Right.
The twist would really be like the twist, and the violent conflict in my mind would be the activism, and would be
the people on the outside.
And also the internal debates within the corporation itself, or within the government itself. So like it would literally be there. The V for Vendetta part of this is largely, you know, the storyline of the activist movement around it, and the fact that some of these, in a weird way, probably will be people who have maybe done the 72-hour trial but didn't like stick with it or something like that. Is like maybe some of them. Maybe there's a lot of people that are pro and against because of their experience with the 72-hour trial, you know. I think so. That's an interesting twist on it. I think an interesting twist is like flipping an activist and like them going like with the 72-hour trial, and then them deciding, I'm not going in the pod, but I understand like and I think the main activist group would be the younger people. I think it'd be everyone under 25 who hasn't even probably gone to the 72 hours to even see what it is, and just thinks that this is wrong and that this is stealing people's lives. But like people who opted out of it are probably the defenders of it, and who have friends and family who opted in, or the defenders of it, saying, no, these people made their choice, respect their choices. It was their choice to go in, honor their wishes, you know? So I think that would be, in my head, if we write this movie, Romina, that's like, I think that's the tension. I think that's the conflict. I don't think the conflict, sinister, the government's sinister overtones. It's like, no, I think the conflict is the human conflict. I think it's the pro-pod versus anti-pod people, you know?
Right.
I think it questions because what it parallels is the euthanasia argument. It parallels other arguments, you know, in society. So it's like, so I think it's a parallel for the conflict of, do we honor people's, do we argue like it's what Timothy is saying. It's the ethics argument. It's the ethics argument of things currently happening, even cryogenics. It's the ethics arguments is what the real conflict of the story is. It's the interesting twist, and the twist is, well, what would you do? That's another part of it, is like, would I go into the pod, or wouldn't I, or what conditions make me go into the pod? And then also the thing is like, you know, like maybe somebody in the thing saying, okay, you know what? Like, we detained a bunch of these like people, and the twist being that the people that they detained because they tried to like maybe attack one of the facilities or something like that, is that it's like, you know what? Giving them a taste, and they go in like not voluntarily, which is a very unethical thing, is they don't go in voluntarily, but then they go in, they get a taste of it, and then they come out being, oh my God, like I understand now, and I'm like, I've changed my mind. I'm like, when I'm at the age, I'm like, in 2 more years, I'm going in the pod. Like, I'm like, you know, it's like, I can't go. It's like, can you put me back in? I know I'm below the age limit, but can I go back in? And they're like, no, you have to be 25. And they're like, I'm coming back in 2 years. And then like, maybe the lead activist, maybe like she is like, okay, I don't want to go back in like they do as badly, but now I get this, and I'm conflicted now. And now it's her internal conflict, and it's okay. Yeah. Does she go in when it's her time and everything like that? And like her friends, like when it's their time, they're like, oh, I know I was an activist against this, and it's them going to the media. It's like, I was against this, but I'm for it now. It's like, I understand. It's like, if you haven't been in, you don't get it. And they, you know,
right.
And then that becomes this argument of like, why was it okay to put them in early and everything like that? It's like, or like blah, blah, blah. It's like, and then maybe the government goes, it's like, hey, look, maybe then maybe the whole argument is the government having people lobby to lower the age of consent to go into the pods and saying it's unfair and it is elitist. And why can't more people have access to this if it's going to really be the best thing for them?
Right.
And then, oh, wow, look at all these elitists. Like Timothy's actual idea might be interesting, of the idea of the elitist argument of the people who it's not permanent, but they can go in and out as they please because they're rich, because they can afford to subsidize their own pod. Right. And therefore, since it's not a life commitment and a life bargain, they can go in and out as they please because they can afford it. Like, but it's like it's like, multimillionaires who can afford it. It's like to have that, and they have this wonderful mental health because of it, because they, they're experienced enough of whatever else they want, or they get to live however they want or whatever. And have it both ways, have the best of the world on all circumstances. So, so like that's like that could be like kind of the interesting twist and conflict of it, without having to have it be like, like one of the most interesting movies I've ever seen that like focused a lot on the ethical meta conflict of something in a documentary way was like District 9 was good.
Oh yeah.
And how the main character, when he had to live life from the other side of the perspective of the aliens, how his points of view changed on everything.
Right. It was a great story, character arc.
Yeah. Yep. But I think you wanted to wrap up a while ago.
Yeah, I did. But we did a little rehash for MJ. And Will brought up some good points in the last minute. So
yeah,
I think it's a good topic. MJ, you should definitely stick around, and for anybody who came in later, stick around afterwards and listen to the rerun, because all of our episodes are recorded, and I am going to be working on trying to put the audio files up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all those places. So we'll eventually catch up to the YouTube channel, but YouTube channel is the best place to get us every Thursday live. Plus we get to talk to you guys, so being here live is better than listening to the recording anyway. But it is an interesting topic. It was an interesting topic, and so I think it's worth going back and listening to the recording. Are you ready to wrap up, Roberto?
Yes.
Do you have an outro?
Thank you for listening to No Mistakes Required Podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. Tune in next week and tune into the pod instead of going into the pod. If you listen to the episode, you understand what that means. And we will catch you next time. Romina, are we doing this again next week?
I hope so.
That's the plan anyway. So I guess we'll be seeing you all next week with another exciting episode where we talk more about weird stuff. This has been your duo signing off, and we'll catch you next time. Nah.